crypto warriors, changing our world day by day. The way of the crypto warriors, can't rely on the bankers, no way.
Good morning, Bix Weir, road2ruta.com with your morning horn of Z's, your sip of chaga tea. A big weekend. I worked all weekend. Got the timeline up, the woo-woo timeline. Yes, it was difficult to do. Everything is new. Everything is weird. Everything is different. And then I had a dream last night that Trump made a deal with the bad guys, a deal with the devil, and was planning on extending the pain because they trapped him with the bioweapon. I don't know. That's not how it happens in the woo-woo timeline, so go check that out if you're a private road member or Patreon Plus. And yeah, things are getting tough, and they're just going to get a lot worse, crazy worse. So just buckle down and remember the spiritual side of things. You came here to experience something crazy, and you're getting it. Try to keep that in perspective as we go down this path. None of it really matters in the long term. But when you're in here fighting the fights, dealing with all the insanity, it's not easy. But you knew it wasn't easy coming down here to live your life in this reality, if that's what you call it. Timelines shooting every which way, changing timelines. Yeah. Check it out on 2020 Woo-Woo Timeline and Reviews. Also, I talked a lot this weekend about Buffett. He has $137 billion. He's trying to crash the stock market. Everybody's like, oh, Bix, what are you thinking? Buffett's a bad guy. He funds all the Gates stuff, and he's a eugenicist. And I'm telling you the financial side of things. Yes, everybody. It's hard to look at anybody and say, oh, is he a good guy or is he a bad guy? I can't tell you. They're about 50-50 on Trump with all my subscribers. They're like, Trump's a good guy. Trump's a bad guy. Trump's doing the right thing. He's doing the wrong thing. He hung out with Epstein. He's been on Epstein's plane. Yeah, there's good guys and bad guys out there. We're in the fog of war is what I like to call it. It's the fog of war. You don't know who's a good guy. You don't know who's a bad guy. But you can fight for the things you believe in. And the things on the Road to Ruta, I try to apply the Road to Ruta theory against everything I see going on right now. Buffett's looking to crush the economic system, telling everybody he's selling everything. Remember what happened in 2008? He said the exact opposite. Now people are telling me, hey, that was because Obama was in charge, the criminal Obama, and now Trump's in charge, and that's why he's trying to do it. I told everybody, the good guys and the bad guys want to crash the system. The good guys and the bad guys want to crash the system. Why? The good guys want to crash the system to get rid of the bad guys. The bad guys want to crash the system to get rid of their sins. That's my take. And clearly Buffett is looking to crash the stock market. And he's got 137, I believe it is, $1 billion. And my take was, hey, why not buy silver? If you want to save your shareholders' equity, if you want to save your shareholders, there's no better purchase. Silver's at the lowest point it's ever been on planet Earth. And a lot of people saying, well, he can't buy $137 billion of silver. Of course you can. It's easy to buy $137. I'll guarantee you Buffett can buy $137 billion worth of silver. He's just got to pay more for it. That's all it takes. I'll sell my silver for $1 billion. Would you? Yes, Buffett can spend all that money on silver. Would it crash the market? Of course. Will there be no silver available? It is available at some price. You jack the price to $1,000, I'll bet you a lot of people will sell some silver. So yes, Buffett can get $137 billion worth of silver. I put 2 videos out. Go to road2ruta.com and check out all the new stuff I got. The website's looking awesome. My buddy Josh did a great job. So check it out. It's all changing, and it changes every day. So keep an eye on it. Look at that. Silver is still held under $50. With no silver to be found, it's just The bad guys are flaunting that they control the markets. They're flaunting it in your face. There's nothing you can do about it except go buy physical silver. You don't know how? Give Andy Scheckman a call at Miles Franklin or email andy@milesfranklin.com, milesfranklin.com. If you're looking for cryptos, call my friend Will there, Perpetual Assets. And if you're looking to roll over to your self-directed IRA, get your assets in your own possession, obviously you're going to need them in your own possession. Call Will there, Perpetual Assets. Go to perpetualassets.com. And if you want to buy cryptos, great group of guys to buy your cryptos for you and walk you through the process. They'll hold your hand if you're new to cryptos. Will there, perpetualassets.com. Go to Perpetual Assets. All right. Really good discussion by Mike Maloney. And in part of it, he discusses how much will be needed. Now, I've been saying $20 billion for a long time. You guys who follow the road to Ruta, at least 3 years now, I said, no, it's not going to be the $700 billion they needed last time. It's going to be $20 trillion. Check out what Mike Maloney says, reading from his book. Check this out.
Remember that in order to levitate the stock markets from the crash of '08, it took a 400% increase in base currency. Each time they do this, their power is diminished. So the next time we suffer a downturn, they aren't going to get the same economic pop from creating another 3.2 trillion.
By the way, I love Mike. He's like the grandfather you had. Well, not me. He'd be my father. The grandfather you had who just sits you down and explain economics to you. He's awesome.
In the next crash, it will probably take a similar percentage increase or more. But this time, instead of starting from a base of 0.8 trillion, we're starting from a base of 4 trillion. A 400% increase would mean the creation of 16 trillion, which would bring the total monetary base to 20 trillion.
Ding, 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 ding. 20 trillion. Although he stops at 16 and then adds the 4 that was already there. I think at 20 trillion, it just doesn't matter. It'll just keep going. It doesn't matter, truthfully. And then there's the reported versus unreported. Mike, very much like Ted Butler, talks about what is reported. I like to look at the conspiracy side. What they print and don't tell us is infinity money already. But it looks like the Fed is taking the advice of Mike. New York Fed response to ground list reveals that it will start buying ETFs in early May. Hey, we're going to infinity, my friends. Yes, the Fed is buying the stock market. Dun, 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 dun. Responding indirectly to Jeff Grumlish's late Friday tweet, in which the Bond King observed something that we had noted previously, namely that the Fed has not actually bought any corporate bonds via the shell companies set up to circumvent the restrictions of the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, adding this, must be the most effective job-owning success in Fed history if it is true. Moments ago, the Fed announced on its website that it expects to begin purchasing eligible ETFs, most notably LQD and JNK, but also many others. There you go, with the Fed's in there. So we didn't get a crash today yet on the stock market because the Fed's in there buying everything. They're buying everything. And there's the announcement on their website. Yeah, there we have it. The Fed is buying everything. 2 programs are called, number 1, Primary Market Corporate Credit Facility, and number 2, the Secondary Market Corporate Credit Facility. It is insane. So what happens when you learn that the Fed's going to buy stocks and bonds and buy everything, basically? You go out and borrow as much money as possible if you got a great credit rating. Yields jump after Apple announces another massive 4-tranche buyback funding bond offering. Apple Computer, which has $63 billion in cash, went out and borrowed another $50 billion just to buy their own stock. That's insane. After a subdued overnight session where investor flows were directed towards the corporate bond complex and out of risk assets, moments ago we saw a sharp steepening move in treasury yields across the curve, with 10-year and 30-year moving higher by 3 to 4 basis points. The reason? A flurry of rate locks, because at around 10:20, dealers announced that Apple was in the market with another massive multi-tranche bond offering, joining Monday's burgeoning IG credit insurance table. As Bloomberg reported, Apple offering includes 3-year, 5-year, 10-year, and 30-year tranches and will be used to fund the company's newly announced $50 billion stock buyback expansion. That's insane. Additionally, continuing the record flood of bond insurance, Amgen and Starbucks also have issuances for Monday, with IG issuers are expected to rise $70 billion this week. If you know the Fed's going to be out there buying everything, of course you load up on as much debt as you can get. Grab that debt, grab that debt, grab that debt. Our stock's going up no matter what. Woohoo! Party like it's 1999. Tonight we're gonna party like it's 1999. Then we have a voice of reason, Charles Hugh Smith. Why assets will crash. The increasing concentration of ownership of wealth assets in the top 10% has an underappreciated consequence. When only the top 10% can afford to buy assets, that unleashes an almost karmic payback for the narrowing of ownership, aka soaring wealth, income inequality. Assets crash. Most of you are aware that the bottom 90% own very little other than their labor and modest amounts of home equity that are highly vulnerable to a collapse in the housing market. And there's the ownership. 10% of the U.S. population own 84% of all the stocks held by households. As the chart illustrates, the top 10% own 84% of stocks, over 90% of business equity, and over 80% of non-home real estate. Concentration of ownership of assets such as vintage autos, collectibles, art, pleasure craft, and second homes in the top 10% is likely even greater. The more expensive the asset, the greater the concentration of ownership. The top 0.1% now own more than the bottom 80%. What could go wrong with that, right? This means the pool of potential buyers is relatively small, even if we include global wealth owners. Since price is set on the margins and assets like houses are illiquid, then we can anticipate all markets for assets owned solely by the wealthy to go bidless. As in, nobody's going to buy it. Once everybody starts selling, nobody's going to buy it. Yachts, collectibles, vacation, real estate, because the pool of buyers is small, and if that pool gets cautious due to a drop in net worth, unearned income, there won't be any buyers except at the margins at incredible discount. As we know, in a neighborhood of 100 homes currently valued at $1 million each, when a desperate seller accepts $500,000, the value of the other 99 homes immediately drops to $500,000. Since few of the current bubble era asset valuations are supported by actual income fundamentals, then the asset sale price boils down to a very small number of potential buyers and what they are willing to pay. Houses have a value based on rent, of course, but rents will drop very quickly for the same reason. Prices are set on the margins. The most desperate landlords will drop rents and reset the rental market from the margins. If demand plummets, then vacancies will soar and rents will crash as a few desperate landlords take $1,200 a month instead of $2,500 a month. Tech startups and unicorns are melting like ice cubes in Death Valley. The concentration of ownership generates self-reinforcing feedback that further depresses prices. The demand for other costly assets quickly evaporates, further reducing the wealth of the ownership class, which further reduces their desire and ability to buy bubble-era assets. Everything freezes, basically. High-priced assets owned by the top 10% will be the assets least in demand due to their high cost and potential for enormous loss. Once assets start sliding in value, the reverse wealth effect quickly dries up demand for all assets, all asset classes with narrow ownership. This is how it happens that boats that were once worth tens of thousands of dollars set adrift by owners who can no longer afford to pay slip fees. This is the systemic payback for concentrating ownership of assets in the hands of a Federal Reserve reckons it can save the bubble era valuations by junk bonds of being the buyer of last resort, or ETFs, and it will end up being the only buyer, effectively making the system even more fragile and prone to collapse. The public will eventually have to decide if the nation's central bank should be bailing out assets owned by the financial elite while the upper middle class watches its asset values. That's where we are, my friends. Hang on tight. Go to roadtoruta.com. Watch the woo-woo timeline. It's a weird one, but it's cool. And subscribe to the Road to Ruta. Hit subscribe today, and I will send you 100 Theta coin and 100 Theta fuel. It should be very obvious to people that broadband is a huge part of our COVID future. Our future, COVID is not only changing what we're doing right now, it's changing the way the future is going to be. We are all going to start working more from home, watching more movies, not going out, blah, blah, blah. Boom, broadband, huge. These big mega broadband industries will collapse with the banking collapse, and then you'll have to find out, okay, how are we going to get broadband? Voila, you got Theta, decentralized broadband. So I'm giving away 100 Theta tokens and 10 Theta fuel tokens for every new subscriber on the Road to Ruta, along with the silver Ruta coin. I think this giveaway will pay for itself fairly quickly. This is coming to your front door. You don't have to know how to use cryptos. You don't have to know how to buy silver. If you don't have any silver, great way to get silver. Anyway, go to roadtoruta.com, hit subscribe today, and join the road. This is Bix. I will talk to you guys later.